really became friendly with NATO this last meeting. You know, we went from 2% to 5%, which everyone said was not even a possibility. And I think I made a lot of friends over there. We had a couple of days of very intensive talks, and they're great people.
That was President Trump this week with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte praising an alliance he once called obsolete after member nations agreed last month to increase their spending on defense from 2 to 5% of GDP. But is the U.S. doing enough to rebuild its own military? We're back with Joe Sternberg and Wall Street Journal editorial board member Kate Batchelder Odell. So, Kate, was it as simple as going to 2 to 5% that turned Donald Trump around? This is the nicest he's been to NATO, I think, in his entire life.
Well, look, I think give Trump credit for getting the Europeans to go to 5%. Now, about 3.5% of the economy is what European nations are aiming to spend on core military hardware. And then there's another additional 1.5 percentage points that can be spent on hardening roads, infrastructure, cyber, that sort of thing. But look, I think Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, has done an impressive job outlining the threat that Europe faces and saying, look, we got to defend ourselves and not be taking Russian language courses. And so I think the reinvigoration of NATO comes both from Trump and from, the focusing on the threat that Vladimir Putin really poses to Eastern Europe.
Joe, you've a close student of Germany, and Friedrich Merz, the new chancellor over there, seems to have found a way to talk to Donald Trump, which is not true of previous German leaders, particularly Angela Merkel. What credit do you give Merz for this new Europe-U.S. friendship?
Oh, I think, Germany is playing a big role in all of this. And there are a couple dimensions on that. I mean, first is just Friedrich Merz's bedside manner when he meets with President Trump, because I think that he is not falling into the trap that so many European leaders have done over the years of, trying to talk down or showboating about how much they oppose President Trump on various things. I think that Merz has understood that this is an important alliance for both countries, whoever is the chancellor and whoever is the president. And so he's going on that basis. But the other thing that's happening is that Germany is putting money into defense. Friedrich Merz's first act after he won an election in February, before he even became Germany's chancellor, was to do a big agreement that unlocks at least 500 billion euros of defense spending and probably more over the past decade. So I think that another part of the formula for success with Trump is to show that it isn't going to be all just talk, that you are committed to actually spending the money. And when European leaders have done that, they're discovering that actually it's possible for them to develop a positive working relationship with the president.
But Kate, let's talk about American defense spending, because even as the president touts the 5% goal, America is now spending close to spending about 3% of gross domestic product on defense. And that's really down as a post-World War II low. Back when Bill Clinton was, we were out of the Cold War. I mean, how do you explain that disconnect?
I mean, it's a peacetime budget. I mean, basically, the administration has been relying heavily on its budget bill to kind of split up defense spending. So there's $150 billion of defense spending in the reconciliation bill, and that was supposed to be on top of normal everyday defense spending to kind of turbocharge production of things like Patriot missiles that Jack Keane was talking about, but also more nascent innovations that our forces need to compete on future battlefields, including drones and whatnot. But instead of that being additive, it's sort of become a gimmick. And now it looks like is not going to be a real increase. And if there are no more GOP budget bills, I mean, defense spending could fall to 2.7, 2.65% by the end of Trump's term, which is on par with those European levels that he found very unimpressive and insufficient for the threat.
Well, but Kate, so the president talks all the time about how we've never had a better military. It's fabulous. It's great. So how do you explain this underspending, even as he talks about how great the military is and what he's going to do to make it better?
Well, there are a couple factions in his coalition who do not want to increase defense spending, and for different reasons. Some of them think we have too many fiscal constraints and we can't afford it, and others of them want less American involvement in the world, and so want us to do less with less. I think, though, that the problems, for instance, take Ukraine. Two lessons from Ukraine. One is that drones are changing the front pretty significantly, and we need to catch up to that. But two is also really fundamentals about men in the mud and war. Sometimes wars last longer than you think. We need a deep magazine. So that combination of needing new technology and of needing more military mass, larger forces in a military that hasn't been recapitalized since Ronald Reagan, that is fundamentally why I think 3% is not going to get the job done, and we can't find savings or get this done by looking through couch cushions.
Briefly, Kate, those so-called restrainers in his administration are in the Pentagon, are they not? The president, does he have to get rid of them to be able to fulfill his defense spending needs?
I think he needs better advice. I think there's a real opportunity here for him to follow the Reagan model and explain to the public why we need more defense spending. And I think it would be good for his legacy if he did so. So hopefully, yes, he gets advisors who see that.